Hi, this is Eric Martin with Board Game Geek. I'm here with Sean Brown from Mr. B Games, and we're showing off a co-production of Days of Ire Budapest 1956, co-published with Cloud Island, which I believe is now the only publisher on Malta?
No.
No?
So Mighty Box is still publishing games.
Mighty Box, okay.
But yes, they're the second publisher from Malta.
I was not aware of
I've got a monopoly on Malta publishers.
Well, it's good. You've got an in.
You know, they're all good guys.
Whenever any publisher comes up in Malta, they know
I'm very territorial of my Malta boys. Stay away from them. No, just kidding.
That's right. But the action here is actually taking place in Hungary.
Yes.
And what is going on?
So this was a historical event, and they based it off of that. The folks at Cloud Island actually got to work with the consulate, and they actually got like proper history and like real actual photos from it and like actual quotes and things like that.
Okay.
Which immediately got me excited because I'm like, I know nothing of this. I'd never even heard of this
Hungarian consulate?
Yes.
In Malta.
Well, no, they contacted them. The designer is not from Malta. The company, Cloud Island, is from Malta. So yes, there's this.
So they got together to pull
together, got all this proper, so it's actually historically factual and correct, which I'm a sucker for. And then
the story actually is Russia invading Hungary.
Right.
And this is a week-long game.
Right.
Where things happen.
Right, and then they called them the Boys of Budapest because they were really young guys, and they basically staged a revolution.
Okay.
And they don't actually win. It's just if you can hold them off, right, then you win in the board game. But right in history, it didn't really necessarily work that way.
It is not a long simulation of Russia occupying Hungary.
No, it actually plays pretty close to the hour mark. We put 90 minutes, but because if you're going to learn it the first time and you're playing with a few more people, it could go a little longer. But I mean, I have routinely been getting games in an hour.
Okay.
So
now how you're playing is one person is representing Russia.
Yep. The Soviets. Yep.
The Soviets. Yes. At the time, right?
At the time.
Yes. Yep. And everyone else is representing the boys.
Right. And so, like, if the two of us were playing, you would play. You would play all of the actions for the Boys of Budapest, but if there were three of us, one person might play the Soviets, and then you and I might play one of each.
Right.
And then we would each get two actions on our turn, but we could trade cards together. That element kind of feels almost like pandemic-y to me, because it's like, I'm going to move here, and I have the cards to do this. Can you help me with this? Yeah, I can help. And we're trading, and we're trying to solve these crises that are all out on the board.
It's going to be like Fury of Dracula, right? You got the team aspect.
Absolutely.
How well
so that's kind of cool, right? That the one side is playing more of a team-oriented, whereas the Soviet player is playing, in my mind, straight Twilight Struggle.
Right.
Very similar card-driven mechanics. I'm here to crush you. I'm here to cause damage.
Okay.
And that's the war orientation. And it's very clever. Both sides have very, very good intricacy. So, like the Soviet player, as the days go on, the decks that they can draw from change.
Okay.
And because
they're bringing more troops in,
and like
tanks,
it's supposed to simulate how things were changing and how the war was progressing. So the mixes start to change. So sometimes the cards might be really good in one deck and not really good in another, but there's good blends.
Okay.
And what'll happen is you've got two different types of cards. So you've got the greens and the reds. So the reds are more Soviet-centric.
Okay.
And the easy way to tell them too is they have these SPA points, which stands for the State Protection Authority.
That's not actually an A.
Is it?
That's a D.
Spod.
It's a Russian D.
Spod. Maybe.
I just thought I'd point that out. Don't say maybe. I took Russian.
Maybe.
Okay. In any case.
And so with those, you can use the command points, which are very similar in Twilight Struggle. I can use them to get more cards, do more actions, things like that. Or you can use the text portion.
Okay.
But with those cards, you get the SPA, and the State Protection Authority was a bunch of militia that the Soviets had control over. Okay. So it allows you to take these cards, and you always have access to these cards.
Yeah, put them out here.
And they're more like one time, so it's like move a sniper, bring a sniper on, attack, things like that. And they allow you to kind of do other things in addition to these events that you're doing. Okay. And what's nice about it is as you play the card to the table, you can get them back whenever you play SPA points.
Okay.
So if you're careful with how you manage it, and you're only playing 2 or 3 of those every turn, you can generally get them all back all the time. But if you really need the power, you could dump them all. You can play all 7 of them in a turn, but you're only going to get so many of them back at a time.
Right.
And the way you play them is important, because if I put my attacks down first and then I put all these other cards, when I go to pick them up, I have to pick up from the topmost card.
Okay.
So it actually prolongs it. So it makes it to where the Soviet player can't attack you all the time. unless they're very clever with the way they manipulate their cards.
Okay.
So quite fun little side game. And then the events that are over here, I think we can see those. Can you see those?
Oh, we'll move them.
If not, we can see
them. But
them.
they're at the top here, and they've got some coins.
So the coins
events?
are the closest thing I can equate it to would like be Through the Ages, where if it's in the first slot, it's actually free. It's only the cost of the card. The farther the slot goes, you have to start paying a premium for them if you take them early. And as you take them, they're all going to slide. And so these events will tell you, like, this one you have to put on Stalin Square. If there's already an event on Stalin Square, then it's gone. You can't play it.
Okay.
So that's kind of the revolutionists can actually kind of look and see what you have up there, and maybe they specifically don't clear an event at Stalin Square, so you can't bring out another one, right? So it's kind of nice that it has those ebbs and flows. And the costs will be on the actual event, unless they have an X, and an X is you count the number of actual events on the board, and that's its cost.
Okay.
So if the Soviet player has a whole bunch of events out, X cards are expensive.
Okay. And you had put out some events before they start?
Yeah, so there's some starting events, and that's just kind of what was happening in the conflict. Okay. And right away it gives the resistance something to go after.
Okay.
And their cards are a little different. Their cards are more of a set collection. So, you know, they have pistols and Molotovs and aid, and the cool thing, like these cards, they can build barriers. So while the Soviets have tanks and they're running around town, you can play that card and actually put a barrier down on like one of the pinpoints, and then you couldn't travel between that anymore.
Right.
So they're actually like closing off the gates and stuff. Otherwise, a lot of times, like the University of Technology says, hey, they need a radio and 3 food, and they can take care of this event. And so maybe a guy has, hey, look, I've got this, could be any of it. You don't get all 3, you get a choice. And maybe he calls his friend, I have everything but the radio. And you might say, okay, I got the radio. So that's how you can kind of solve that issue.
So what constitutes winning for the Hungarians?
So the easiest one is not easiest, but the core, like the most central fought over is if there are more than 4 events on the board, the Soviets will win.
Okay.
And if there are less than 4, then the revolution did their job.
Okay, of quelling.
Of keeping things at bay. And then there are some less likely versions of, let's just say I pound you into submission. Okay. And your morale just goes all the way down. We can end that way because there's no morale. Right?
Okay.
And vice versa.
It's a def contract,
right,
but...
Exactly.
All right.
Well, but no.
But no, it's not. Because...
Love you, Jason.
Okay. But it is that same concept, the back and forth.
Right.
Where
it's a back and forth. That's also how you're going to determine your hand, the cards that you draw and whatnot, based on how your morale is and your support.
Okay. All right.
And
Thanks for the overview.
Paul Grogan did an amazing how to play video on this that goes way more into depth than what I did. I just kind of glossed over everything here really quickly.
Right.
But Paul's video is fantastic. If you I want to learn how to play this, or I want to know really, really more, or I brushed over something and you're like, tell me more about this. How does this fight? How do these militia and snipers work? Paul is a rock star at that video, and you should check it out.
That's what he does. So
he's the man.
All right. There you go. Days of Ire, Budapest, 1956.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Sean.